if you respond with like, thanks, it's always great to hear from a fan, and you've got somebody crying on the other end of a keyboard, like smashing in like these big long comments, like it's like a game for us.
One of the interesting things I heard you say, I can't remember whether it was on the YouTube channel or on the podcast, but you see a noticeable difference between your podcast audience and your audience on YouTube, and I was just wondering if you could talk a bit more about the differences you perceive there, and you know how you relate to those two different audiences.
Like there's definitely a difference in the audience themselves, right? So like the demographic you hit tends to be a bit more different. I think the nature of YouTube and the videos having to be a bit more kind of not clickbaity, but certainly they have to be more approachable. Like myself and Eoin can talk for 90 minutes on the podcast about the intricacies of block periodization versus concurrent periodization. Nobody's going to be commenting back at us. Nobody's doing anything to us. Both of us will have thought about this topic for possibly more than a decade and thinking about it on a semi-daily basis for those 10 years. In the YouTube sphere, you seem to get a degree of confidence in your viewers that I've never come across in my entire life, right? We come across it. We train in like a commercial gym here in the city. We don't train there too often, but you come across this person, right? Call this person Jimmy, and Jimmy is usually between the ages of 18 and 28. He's not in good shape, but he's in better shape than he was last year. He can squat less than 1.5 times body weight. He seems to think he knows everything, and the level of confidence Jimmy has is the level of confidence that exists within YouTube comment sections. And we just don't get that with the podcast. Like, nobody in the podcast is ever like, lads, what are you talking about? This isn't how X, Y, or Z works. Where you'll get somebody in a YouTube comment write a fairly significant paragraph and make it seem as though the sky isn't blue, you know? Like, they will tell you black is white or white is black with a level of confidence that 15-year-old will have in the gym.
So I feel like the biggest difference between podcasting and YouTubing is, you just, like Fitz said, you just don't have any interaction with your podcast audience immediately. So, like, for example, recently we talked in a Shit Talk podcast where I argued for having a fire extinguisher in the office and Fitz argued against it. And I told people DM us on Instagram. We got a lot of DMs and comments on the YouTube saying, of course, we should have a fire extinguisher. Fitz used a ludicrous analogy saying if there was a bear in an elevator, would you be worried about it then or something? And obviously everyone agreed with me because, of course, you should have a fire extinguisher in the... But ultimately, you have like you have very little feedback with your podcast audience other than the fact that they keep listening. So you hope whatever you're doing is doing them a favor and it's something they enjoy. Whereas at the YouTube, there's a silent majority who will watch everything, but then there's a very vocal minority who, by and large, 99% of them are very, very funny and they're very engaged and they like commenting, and that's something they like doing, and they're great for the videos, they're great for the algorithm, and it's nice to see repeat names and users and people who comment all the time. But then you get that 1% like Fitz talking about who are just absolutely like ludicrous. I suppose I was exposed to YouTube years ago via Clarence and stuff, so by the time we got to this here, the ludicrosity of people just being YouTube comments, there's nowhere like it, you know. So sometimes people, you just get on everyone gets it. Everyone on YouTube, everyone gets it. YouTube more than anywhere else, where people will just randomly insult you for no reason. The vast majority will be very, very supportive people who want to see the channel do well because they appreciate the value you're putting out there. But then you just get the tiny minority who are just, you know, lashing out at the world. They're very, very minor. That may be 1 in every 5 vids. You'll get like one in like 200 comments, which is something like that. But I don't think they get, there's 2 lads who couldn't give less of a fuck. Like, you know, just this, I don't like, you understand because you grew up in Ireland, but growing up as a boy, a teenager in Ireland, with or without older brothers, no amount of abuse can come close. No amount of mean comments on YouTube can come close to the near psychological warfare you had to endure every day in school or with older brothers. So a random comment on YouTube about you're the weird way you say a word, buddy, it's not even close to how like upset people used to get. Like the level of like, there was no line, as you well know, for teenage boys in Ireland, and I don't think other cultures are like that. And maybe it's maybe we've lasting psychological problems with it, but one of them is an immunity to YouTube comments. Like most time we just laugh at them, you know, they're funny, you know. People think it's funny because we don't get a lot of it, which I think, just talk about it now in case people are wondering, we get so little of it, and that's very, very grateful for that. But when we do, I'd love to see how much people think it would annoy us when it couldn't possibly be further from the truth. Like
we've definitely upset a few people in the past. So like, you do a video on whatever topic and you'll get somebody who's after writing a few newspaper articles on it, or they'll have written in like an online magazine about it, and they'll get all up in arms because this is what they've based their solely hollow career around, and they're really getting annoyed. So like, they'll send us emails, they'll comment, they'll then go and find our Instagrams and they'll comment on our Instagrams. Like, the things we say to each other when we're eating our lunch every day are worse than that. So then if you respond with like, thanks, it's always great to hear from a fan, and you've got somebody crying on the other end of a keyboard, like smashing in like these big long comments, like, it's like a game for us. It'd be better if people did it more often.
Well, yeah, I think like there's no point. There's what are you going to get from engaging someone? Like, they're not going to give in until you concede their point. But there you go. Who knew growing up in Ireland would equip you with the personality and the skills you need to succeed as a YouTube content creator? But you know,
because people do get really down about that. Like, you do hear people talk, like it does get to people, you know. So it's just worth bearing in mind, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like you can the way human psychology works. Like, there'll be 200 positive comments and the one negative comment, for whatever reason, like, grabs your attention, and that's what we focus on. And some people find it hard to disconnect and discount that one opinion. But yeah, if you're on YouTube, it's almost essential.